I'm Ken.
I'm Dede.
And on this episode of Hurricane Prepare to Survive, we're going to talk a little bit about outdoor cooking.
That's great. And if you're cooking outside, you're going to need a thermometer.
Well, I need a thermometer because I'm not a chef.
No, you're an engineer.
Yes, and engineers need thermometers. So,
But
I'm pretty good.
I'm looking at 5 different thermometers.
That's true.
An engineer with 5 thermometers.
Because today we're gonna compare some thermometers. First one we're gonna look at is this TS Ant, and I have had this thing for years. Picked it up on Amazon for under $15.
It's like a mini TV.
It is, and it just works great. The second one we're going to look at.
This is the one you use a lot.
I use that one a lot.
Yes.
The second one is by Smartro, and I just picked this up recently, and it does 2 things. First of all, it has 3 probes, so it can measure 3 pieces of meat at the same
Where are the
time.
probes?
They're in the box over there. I'll put them on when you need them. Okay, sorry.
You know, I'm like 3 probes.
They're here.
Where are the probes?
They're here. The second thing is this will work with your smartphone and Bluetooth.
Oh, that's great.
So, well, we're going to test it. We're going to see just how well it works.
Okay.
Okay. I also brought a couple of other instant thermometers. This one is also by Smartro. Again, it's one I've had a lot of years, and it's good for just if you want a temperature really fast. And then this one, which is a no name, which again I picked this up for really cheap, and again it's so that you can get an instant read. The beauty of the ones with probes is you actually leave the probes in the meat, and you can and you don't have to open the grill or the smoker or whatever you're using to see what the temperature is of the meat, because it tells you that all the time.
Well, and just so everyone knows, this isn't a prerequisite for your grilling outdoors to have this many thermometers.
No, you don't need this many thermometers, but
you need one good one.
But what I want to do today is kind of test them and see how they work and how accurate they are.
Okay.
And we're going to do 2 experiments.
Okay.
And the first experiment we're going to do is on our favorite cut of meat, which is...
Oh, tri-tip.
Yes, we love a tri-tip.
Hands down, tri-tip's the best.
And I'll tell you a little more about what a tri-tip is in a minute, but it's a 4-pound steak that takes forever to cook, but it is incredibly delicious.
Yes.
And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to smoke a turkey breast. I have a 3-pound turkey breast, and we're going to smoke it, and we're going to just see how the thermometer works. So let's go outside and start cooking some meat and testing some thermometers.
Sounds great.
So today we're going to outdoor cook this tri-tip. Now, tri-tip's something you may never have heard of. It's also called a Newport steak, sometimes called a triangle steak or a Santa Maria cut. What this is it's part of the sirloin family. It's actually the bottom sirloin. It comes from the hind leg of a cow. It's usually used to grind up and make hamburger, but it also can be a very tasty cut of meat if it's prepared the way we've done it, which is the way the Spanish do it. The Spanish call it Ribero de Cadera, which literally means hip corner. And what they do in the way that we've done this is we have marinated this in spices and red wine for days. And then we're going to throw it on a really hot grill and cook it. It'll probably take it about a half hour to cook, maybe a little longer. And we're going to take it to 135 degrees, which will make it roughly about medium rare on the middle, but it'll be nice and crispy on the outside and have a really good flavor to it. So we've got our grill up at about 450 degrees, and we're going to take the tri-tip and just put it on the grill. Nice searing sound. Take that red wine, what's left of it, and just pour it on top there. So we've let it go about 2 or 3 minutes, and now we're going to turn it 90 degrees so that it gives it that crisscross pattern that makes the steak not only look pretty, but it actually enhances the flavor. It's now been about 10 minutes, and we're going to turn it over. And you can see it's got real nice texture on this side, nice marks. All right, it's been about 3 minutes since we turned it over, and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees now. And now we're going to put the probes in. What we want to do is put these so that they are about in the center of the meat. And there's the one for the Smartro. There's the one for the TS Ant. So the reading on the left is the TS Ant, and the reading on the right is the Smartro. And I did put a second probe from the Smartro in because, truthfully, the first probe really showed low. You'll see that the TS ant on the left is showing right now 87 degrees. The Smartro is showing 57 degrees with one probe and 66 degrees with the other probe. Just for fun, I took the analog thermometer, and right now it's showing right at 100 degrees. So we're now about 25 minutes into cooking, and you can see the TS ant shows 97 degrees. The Smartro on one of the probes shows 83 degrees, and on the other probe shows 68 degrees. That's not real promising. The Smartro instant thermometer shows 75 degrees, and the no name shows 85 degrees. So, and the analog shows the TS ant is correct, so it's sitting at right about 100 degrees as well. So we're sitting at about 120 degrees now on the TS ant on the left. We're about 35 minutes into the cooking process. And you can see on channel 1 on the Smartro, it is measuring 110 degrees, measuring 122 degrees on the second channel. So it's reading correctly. I also want to show you the Bluetooth feature that it has. I've got this on my smartphone. It gives me the ability to look at the temperatures on the probes. And this works pretty well. I can be inside the house in the room that's closest to the patio, and it picks it up really well. If I go 2 rooms away, it loses it. But it is kind of nice if I'm just in that first room. All right, so right at 50 minutes into cooking, we're at 135 degrees in the TS ant. 122 on channel 1 of the Smartro. The channel 2 says 140 degrees, which is our target. And there's our steak, ready to go. Beautiful tri-tip, cooked to perfection.
So here we have our tri-tip. We'll cut into it. It's beautiful and pink in the center and smells delicious. But didn't you have a little difficulty with the thermometers?
I did. Now the TS ant, my old reliable, it served perfectly. But the new Smartro really disappointed me because the 2 probes didn't match. Now, in all fairness, I've got to tell you, I have since then done a lot of experimenting. I've tried each of the 3 probes in each of the 3 slots, and I discovered, at least for mine, that there's an order that you have to be in. And I ended up putting the orange one in 1, and the red one in 2, and the blue one in 3. And as you're about to see in our next experiment, that's going to fix that problem. That doesn't make any sense to me because that's not a logical order for color. As an engineer, that's not the order of the colors. Red comes before orange, and if you don't know what that means, you're not an engineer. But in this case, I've discovered that if I put the orange in 1, and the red in 2, and the blue in 3, it's going to work a lot better on this turkey that we're about to smoke. We're going to make a rub out of parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, salt, and pepper. I call it Scarborough Fare. It just is easier to remember what the ingredients are if you remember Scarborough Fare. We're going to take 1 part each of parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, and then a half a part of salt and a half a part of black pepper, and we're going to blend them in a coffee grinder because some of the spices, like the parsley, comes in flakes, and it's not really conducive to a rub. Today we're going to do our experiment with this 3-pound turkey roast. I like these because they're real easy to work with. There's no waste. They are a little bit expensive, but for smoking, they are awesome because they're really easy to cook. They come with a gravy packet, which you may or may not use. One trick I learned a long time ago is you want to separate the mesh that's holding the turkey together from the turkey itself, and that makes it just a lot easier after it's cooked to take this off. Just taking a few minutes and separating that off now will save you a ton of time later. Pat it down, get most of the moisture off the outside of it. Now be real generous with the rub. We'll smoke the turkey in this 30-inch master-built smoker. One of the reasons I like this smoker is it only draws 800 watts. And if you're having to run this off a generator because you're in a hurricane or you're in a storm situation, having something that doesn't draw a lot is a real advantage. We'll use a mixture of 50% water, 50% apple juice in the water pan. We'll put the turkey on a center shelf. And then I'm going to take each of the 4 probes and just put them so they're in the center of the turkey. Today we're going to smoke this with 100% apple wood. Sometimes I'll use a mixture of apple and pecan, but today we're just going to use apple. We preset the smoker to 220 degrees. It'll take 4 or 5 hours to smoke this turkey. We're now about 2 hours in, and you can see the TS Ant has 138 degrees on it. The Smartro number 1 has 134 degrees, number 2 136 degrees, and number 3 135 degrees. So everything's working about the same today. Now we're getting close to having things cooked. You'll notice the TS Ant is showing 151 degrees, and that on the Smartro, all 3 of the probes, there's 1 at 149, 2 at 151, and 3 at 151. So really, all 4 are showing about the same thing.
So smoking a turkey is really the best way to go. It brings out the flavor. It's absolutely delicious. So hands down, that would be my number 1 choice.
Yeah, and I really like apple wood. That's my favorite wood to smoke with. And then our Scarborough Fair rub on any kind of bird just really brings out flavor.
That's
it's just
rosemary.
Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Thyme.
It's the words of Scarborough Fair, or you travel, or you know, and then add salt and pepper.
Yes.
But here's what we learned about the 2 thermometers we were testing. The TS Ant was great, and for a low cost, for under $15 at Amazon, and it's a great buy. They do not always have them. I just checked today, and they didn't have any. But they have this same thermometer that looks like this is under other names as well. It's a great thermometer, and it works great, but you only do 1 piece of meat at a time. The Smartro, what I learned with it was as long as I put the probes in the order that worked for me, as you saw in the test that we did with the meat, the 3 probes were within a couple of degrees of each other, and they were within a degree or 2 of the TS Ant and the other thermometers we tested too. Now, about the Bluetooth, as I mentioned in the video, the Bluetooth works for about 1 room away. So if it's outside and you're just inside, it's going to work fine, and you can be watching your temperatures for the whole time. If you go to the next room over, it is not going to work. But that's not unusual. Bluetooth does not go long distances.
Right.
Is it a good buy? Yes, it is. Is it something that I'm glad I have? Yes, it's something I'm glad I have. And now that I know more about it, I'll use it a lot.
Mr. Engineer.
So that's it for this episode of Hurricane Prepare to Survive. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that you learned something from it. We hope that it helps you be a little more prepared to survive the next big hurricane.